Hey YouTube, today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts about amalgam cavity preparation. Now the thing about amalgam is it requires quite a bit of bulk. So make sure that your cavity is at least 2 to 2.5 mm deep so that there's adequate space for the base and there is also adequate space to provide the bulk for the amalgam. Now, the width of an amalgam cavity is also very important. Now, during the initial phases of the cavity preparation, just make sure it's not too wide, initially. That doesn't mean I'm asking you to make the cavity narrow. It has to be 1/4 of the intercuspal distance. But what I'm saying is initially just keep it, constricted a bit so that later on, as you finish it, as you make the wall straight, it'll obviously get extended, and even the depth, just don't make 2 mm in one stretch. Make sure it stays at somewhere between 1.5 1.25 mm at the initial stage, so that as you try to make the floor straight, it will increase the depth and the width of the cavity. Now the second do is definitely do not use the straight fissure burr. Now I'm talking with experience. I don't know what the textbooks say about this. Um, I do know what the textbook says about this, to use a straight fissure. But what happens is it widens your cavity. And how it does this is by, it straightens the wall and makes it look wide. It doesn't actually make it wide. And what happens when it is made, straight, is you lose the convergence that is required in amalgam cavities for the resistance form. So what you can do is you can use an inverted cone. So what happens with the inverted cones usage is it also smoothens the surface of the the pulp floor, and it also provides the convergence. So with the convergence, the resistance form is done. With the straight surface, another resistance form is done. So it's a win-win both way. And during your initial cavity preparation stage, instead of the general punch cut technique, what you can do is you can use a tapered fissure. And for what you can use the tapered fissure is you just mark a rough outline, and the same rough outline, you make the rough outline with your tapered fissure, and after you have made it with your tapered fissure, then use the inverted cone technique. The inverted cone technique also applies to your proximal box. So the proximal box can be, it has to be converging. So what you can do is use the tapered fissure, to break the contacts and all that. And then what you can do is you can use a inverted cone to make the walls converging. And the third do is definitely make sure to measure the dimensions of the cavity before either approval or going to an examiner, because you don't want to be shamed in front of the examiner. So stay calm, use the periodontal probe, measure the depth of the cavity. It should be 0.8 mm below the pulp floor, below the contact area for the proximal box, and it should be 2 mm for amalgam restorations in general, the depth of the cavity. So now talking about the don'ts. The first don't for cavity preparation for amalgam restorations is do not make it too narrow. If it is too narrow, the first question an examiner or a viva question that you will be asked is, you have made it very narrow, what problems will you face? Then you will answer the question correctly and you will undo your cavity preparation. All the effort is gone. So don't make it too narrow. The reason is that adequate bulk will not be provided for the cavity, for the amalgam restoration. And amalgam restoration is significantly strong after setting, but initially it needs a lot of bulk. And the second thing is, when you are compressing or condensing the amalgam, make sure to apply quite a bit of pressure. I'm not talking apply your gym board muscles on the cavity. Don't do that. Apply pressure though, not pressure. Apply the pressure adequately so that you condense the amalgam and some amount of mercury comes out, and then you recondense it with the next layer of amalgam. Do it in layers, don't add it in bulk. This will provide its strength. And make sure you don't have flaps of amalgam on the sides, because when you try to remove those flaps of amalgam, your proximal box is going to break off. And even during matrix application, place the wedge after the matrix band application, remove the wedge and then remove the matrix band. And don't get afraid, don't get tense, you can remove the matrix band, and that's another video. So yeah, these are the do's and don'ts for amalgam restorations. There's lots to come. Subscribe, like, and stay tuned.